FNCS semifinals is over and we have a lot to talk about. We have huge names like Mongraal and Savage not qualifying, and it's got a lot of people asking, are they splitting up? And I have an answer that I think the Mongraal and Savage fans are really gonna like. We have other huge names like Asian Jeff, Moneymaker, all struggling and not making it to grand finals. We have the big names making it through, Clicks, Peterbot, but unfortunately for Peterbot, Grimgate is looking very, very different on NA in this finals. I also want to talk about what is going on with an update that could potentially ruin the map before grand finals. There's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. Have you guys heard of Once Human? It was a game that I knew was on PC, but did you know they are dropping a mobile version, and the best part, it is free and cross-platform. You can pre-register for the game on the Google Play or the App Store, and the best part, the more of you guys who register, the better rewards we're all gonna get. Once Human is a supernatural open world survival game with really beautiful visuals. I actually love their attention to detail with the art style, especially the difference between the day and night cycles. There's also a whole bunch of enemies you can take on with supernatural monsters, gigantic beasts, or you can even go toe-to-toe with other players in the PvP servers. My favorite part is the sheer size and scope of this game. It has a 256-kilometer world map, so there is so much room to explore, and you're gonna need that room so you can find where to set up your house with a fully automated defense and farming system. With the game being cross-platform to PC, don't worry about any of the pay-to-win transactions. All of your equipment, weapons, and blueprints are acquired by actually playing the game. You don't have to buy them. If you guys want to check it out, head over to the Google Play or the App Store to pre-register, and remember, the more of you guys who sign up, the better all of our rewards are going to be. Let's kick off talking about Mongraal and Savage. Unfortunately, they didn't even make it out of lower bracket on day 2, so they didn't get to play day 3, and this was a pretty upsetting performance for a lot of people. After making grands last season, I know a lot of fans had their heart set on the fact that Mongraal and Savage would be playing grands again. Now, after an interesting season, they started off really hot. A lot of people had high hopes. Things kind of fizzled out, and they didn't really make any set lobbies until we were now jumping into FNCS. But are Mongraal and Savage splitting up? Savage had this to say at the end of his stream.
I know this next season is gonna be crazy. Sucks not calling grands here, but chat, me and Mongraal, we have a plan for next season. I think you guys are gonna like it. Let's just say that, okay? That's why I'm not that sad, because I'm actually really hyped for next season. It's gonna be crazy next season, okay?
Now, this could mean a lot of things and has me very excited. Firstly, Mongraal and Savage are not splitting up. You can think of that what you will. A lot of people upset. Savage, you're wasting your prime on Mongraal. Savage is enjoying playing with Mongraal for whatever reason. I think everyone knows that Savage is better than Mongraal right now. He's been playing for the last few years. He is playing extremely well right now. You would expect that he is doing better, but he did go to social media to defend Mongraal, saying he's nowhere near as bad as everyone's saying. He's not completely anchoring the team, and he's really enjoying playing with Mongraal. He thinks he can actually make it not only to grand finals, but to land with Mongraal, and he wants to do that. He would rather risk not making it with the friend he's enjoying playing with rather than playing with another pro of, you know, on his level. He just doesn't want to. So, but what does that exact clip mean? Now, this has me extremely excited. I think this means one of two things. I think it definitely means they are going to be boot camping, and by that I mean going and living together or staying together or playing out of the same facility and making a bunch of content. But why would you not take this one step further? If they're already going to move and be playing together, why would we head to, you know, Germany to get 0 ping on EU when we can head to Dallas and get 0 ping on NA? Now, hear me out. Next FNCS, there is 10 qualification spots for EU for the Global Championship and 10 qualification spots for NA. That means there is the same amount of spots for a region that has half as many players, less than half as many players. Whatever you say about the EU and NA debate, ask any top tier NA pro. They're going to tell you if top 10 qualifies, it is easier to qualify on NA than EU. I mean, maybe they won't tell you because they don't want a lot of EU players coming over and competing with them on their region, but I think the viewership and the numbers they would get from this would be massive. The content would be insane. If it makes sense for any pro to bootcamp overseas in a different region, it would be Mongraal and Savage moving to NA. The amount of numbers they would pull on their content, the amount of attention they would get would seriously outweigh any of the costs of the move. But FNCS is kicking off pretty soon. We have basically 30 days until the next FNCS from now. It is kicking off extremely quickly. So if this was their plan, we're gonna have to see it come into motion pretty quickly. Now, I could just be getting overexcited here. This could mean absolutely nothing. Mongraal and Savage just said they have big plans for next season and they think people are gonna be excited. But that has me thinking it's bigger than just we're playing together, because they already announced that. So something is coming and I'm very excited for it. Unfortunately, we did have other big names missing out on grand finals, Moneymaker and Asian Jeff being the two most notable. With the amount of content numbers they were pulling last season, with the huge storylines they were bringing to the game and the amount of attention they were getting, it's been really unfortunate to see them struggle this season. Moneymaker in particular has now gone from making the global championship LAN finals to not qualifying for 2 grand finals in a row. A lot of people saying that Moneymaker and Fanayan looks like they will be splitting up. We'll have to see how that one shakes up. A lot of people are expecting them to split up after not making last grand finals, so it looks like they are pretty loyal to each other, but I'm not sure what that means for them going forward. They do still have next chance to make the LAN if they stick together. Now, as for Asian Jeff, obviously there's a bit of drama there. Asian Jeff and Oliver OG splitting up midway through FNCS. Asian Jeff went and played with Diego Plays for a little bit, didn't do very well, then played with Broken 4X, and unfortunately didn't make it out of day 2 to even play in day 3. Oliver OG, on the other hand, with Larson, ended up qualifying for the lower bracket on day 3, so only got to play those last 3 games, and in that, they were able to qualify and book their ticket straight to grand finals. So Oliver OG coming out on top in that one. I know there was a lot of people talking a lot of crap on him, so I thought I'd mention it. Now, I'm not going to go through every single team who did qualify because there's 50 different teams on both EU and NA, but I will want to talk about some of the big ones. And don't worry, all your big favorite teams I don't talk about are already there. If they weren't, I would talk about them. Booga made it through, Threats made it through, Clicks made it through, Peterbot, all those big names made it through. EU, Queasy ended up getting through with Thomas HD, Veno and Tayson popped off, Mustache and Malabuka. Across the board, pretty much most of the big teams are in unless I've mentioned them. But I want to pick 2 teams in particular to talk about on NA who just clutched it up. Hazens and Mahia, I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm so sorry. The Peruvian duo that came over from Brazil region and played on NA, managing to qualify in the last game of the lower bracket. They just got knocked down into the lower bracket by a big team getting a lot of attention, Mixon and Paco. The EU team that came over to NA just clutching up qualification in upper bracket semifinals on NA by 1 single point. They won on a tiebreak, but not even a tiebreak. They had even wins and they had even average elims, which means they won and qualified by 1.1 of an average placement. It was the closest I've ever seen the margins for qualification. So a lot of the EU fans who thought Mixon and Paco were going to come over and just dominate NA, they did make it through, but they're going to have to step up much bigger for grand finals. Now, we have had a little bit of drama with teams getting banned and disqualified and other teams getting in. Basically, the reason why we had this long bye week was supposedly to ban cheaters or people who should be disqualified from the tournament, whether they're playing on alt accounts, whether they're teaming, something like that, any form of breaking TOS. Now, unfortunately, a lot of that happened very, very late. Sentin and Tahi, for example, were 1 place off making it out of lower brackets on day 2 with a chance to then play day 3 and qualify. They found a team in the top 30 that should not be playing because one of them was playing on a different account. They ended up getting them reported. They ended up going through the system. Epic ended up banning them, but it was too late. They ended up disqualifying them, and Sentin and Tahi only got eligibility to play the tournament after it was over, which just feels like such a slap in the face. I'd rather not get eligibility than get it after the tournament, knowing that Epic is saying that I should have played if they got them out quicker. But again, it came down to trying to get them disqualified on the day of the event. I guess it just wasn't enough time for Epic to check it, especially because running on an alt account would be one of the harder things to check, I imagine. I don't know what Epic's system is, but they can't just go into the replays and see them hitting every shot and ban them. They're gonna have to check IP addresses, make sure the player hasn't moved, all that kind of stuff. Now, next up, we have another team getting disqualified in the top 15 from the lower bracket. We had On1 apparently, who is now being banned on his main account, playing on an alt account, and this was revealed by Batman Booga and Rapid, who were in 16th place, which then got this team disqualified, and Batman Booga and Rapid jumped up into their spot. But it's not done yet. Chavi's team, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, who was getting coached by Kanada, who was dropping his drop spot, ended up qualifying, but turns out apparently they have been accused of cheating by another pro, Cease. And the reason why Cease has done this is because after On1's team got disqualified, Cease was then in 16th place. So getting another team disqualified gets him up in the top 15, which is what has happened. But I will say there's a lot of people on social media who think this was a wrongful disqualification, and Chavi and his team are not cheating. They streamed the event. They were even getting coached by Kanada, and apparently Chavi has been streaming basically every single qualifier coming into this. So a lot of people saying that he is not actually cheating, and it's just that Cease managed to get enough attention for it, and Epic actioned it. I don't usually think that's how Epic works these days. There were instances in the past where someone would get mass reported and then just get disqualified, and then Epic would end up fixing it. But I don't know if that's the case. But again, I usually like to stay out of all of these kind of witch hunts for this reason. I know teams who are just out of qualification are obviously going to try to get a team disqualified, whether you like it or dislike it. That is what a lot of teams are doing, and that's what's happening here. So it might not be the end of this. We could see other teams getting disqualified potentially and other teams jumping up, but Grand final starts in like 5 days. We really need to get this sorted now. Speaking about what's going on for grand finals, we have to talk about Grimgate, one of the main topics for this season. Peterbot and Pollo on NA, absolutely running the region, having it uncon. Why is no one dropping on them? They're going to win 12 out of 12 games in grands. Everyone freaking out. Well, thanks to this awesome graphic by KXR, we can now see who is apparently dropping at Grimgate on each region, and NA is now the most contested drop. There are 4 different teams dropping Grimgate on NA. Now remember, Zare and Fade is apparently the team that On1 was playing on, so that team might not be in the finals now, but that still makes at least 3 teams on Peterbot and Pollo. Meanwhile, EU, where Grimgate has looked terrible all season, looking like one of the worst drops, no one can lock it down. We now have the reigning FNCS champs Malabuka and Mustache contested by only 1 team. And now Overhallow and Finn were a very underrated team coming into grand finals. Do not have a lot of earnings, do not have a lot of high placements, and a lot of people are now thinking Malabuka and Mustache is going to run through them and have the run that we thought Peterbot and Pollo were going to have. I don't know if that's the case, but it's looking very, very different in Grimgate than what I was expecting coming into finals. Asia, we only have 2 teams. OC, we only have 2 teams. Middle East, we have 4, and Brazil, we have 3. So there are still a lot of teams gunning for Grimgate, but it doesn't look like it's going to be this straight domination a lot of people are expecting. We'll have to see. Now, moving on to a drop spot that doesn't get as much attention, Mount Olympus. We have some big teams going there, Queasy and Thomas HD, Booga and Ages, who have both qualified for grand finals, and there is a mini event going on there right now. There is a bunch of lightning and big storm clouds building around Mount Olympus, and this looks a little bit scary and a bit foreboding for some of the pros that are dropping there right before grand finals, because apparently we do have an update this week that could affect the map. Now, obviously, because grand finals and the new season is only like 4 or 5 days apart, which is insane, we could actually see Epic start having these mini events bleed into grand finals. We haven't seen this happen much in the past, not for a while now. Epic has done a pretty good job, honestly, of not having major updates affect the game right before big competitive tournaments. Still happens occasionally, but not as bad as what it used to. But at this point, it is a little bit concerning. I mean, Queasy himself tweeting out, blow it up. So I don't think he's too worried. I don't know if he's joking about that or he's just over the drop spot. He has had a pretty rough FNCS. Queasy and Thomas managing to qualify on the last day of semifinals. A lot of people thinking that potentially they were going to fall through the cracks and we were going to have one of our biggest teams on EU not make finals. But it's looking a bit spicy, and we'll have to keep an eye on Mount Olympus to see anything change before finals.